All right, what's up, guys? So here it is, Striker's Garb in the flesh, and I'm not gonna lie. Looking at this set from top to bottom, I have a lot of questions. Blizzard, specifically, what in the world were you thinking when you gave us spell power and healing? So I had some hopes, some really high hopes, but when further extensive testing was done in Dire Maul Tribute, spell power does not scale with our traps at all. Immolate trap, explosive trap, do not scale with spell power. Does not make any sense to me. I don't understand that. They're fire magic. I don't understand why it doesn't scale, but it doesn't. Serpent Sting does not scale 1-to-1 with your spell damage. So basically, neither that nor Minpet scale 1-to-1. And what I mean is that each individual tick does not benefit from 42 spell power. The 42 spell power you're seeing here is applied to the total duration, or total damage done, or total healing done. You know what really sucks about that scenario is that warriors are running around with Diamond Flask, and they call it Diamond Flask Bis, because what they're getting, and they're getting a 1-for-1 per tick with Diamond Flask, which I think is absurd, because it basically allows main tanks and DPS warriors to completely cheese encounters in a raid. You're talking about a main tank throwing on plus 1,000 healing gear. And believe me, there are tanks that are doing it. Our tank is like getting greens and blues from dungeons and whatnot and crafted gear. And he's sitting on like plus 650 spell or healing gear. So it's completely doable. Like, you're going to have main tanks walking around with plus 1,000 healing gear. They're going to throw on their healing gear. They're going to pop Diamond Flask. They're going to hit a macro, swap all their plate gear back on, and they're going to go into the fight. And they're going to have 55 plus seconds of 1,000 health being given to them every few seconds. I mean, you want to talk about just completely cheesing an encounter or making encounters supremely easy for you? That's nuts. I mean, that is an absurd amount of healing. So I was thinking, sure, we can give, if warriors are getting that, hunters are, obviously we should get this, because Minpet's in our arsenal. It's there for a reason. We use it often out in the open world and in between fights and encounters and raids. And 42 spell power per tick, that's a lot. That's basically 210 spell power towards the end of the duration of an entire Minpet, which basically gives you an entire extra tick of Minpet. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And especially when you combine that with something like, the 3-piece set bonus from tier 1, which is going to buff your Minpet by another 10% anyway. And unfortunately, at the end of all my testing, I found out that your plus healing doesn't apply 1-to-1 per tick. It applies to the total duration of Minpet. So for example, this is 42 spell power across 5 ticks. You're only going to get at best 9 or so ticks. I mean 9 or so more healing. I mean, this really sucks. I mean, this is not good for us. This has no value whatsoever. It doesn't scale with your spell. It doesn't scale with traps. It doesn't scale 1-to-1 with Serpent Sting, and it doesn't scale 1-to-1 with Minpet. The only thing it does scale 1-to-1 with is Arcane Shot, which of course is given to us a spell cost reduction from the 3-piece set bonus. But 10% is minimal. That's never going to allow us to use Arcane Shot over Aim Shot in a raid setting. Now, had Arcane Shot if Arcane Shot didn't share cooldown with Aim Shot, that would be kind of cool. And honestly, if the 3-piece set bonus was, hey, instead of reducing Arcane Shot's mana cost, it allowed Arcane Shot to no longer share cooldown with Aim Shot, okay, now we're talking. Now we're going to have, an actual use case for this. But with Arcane Shot still sharing a cooldown with Aim Shot, neither the 3-piece set bonus or the bonus to spell power really benefits us. There is a small, tiny bump in DPS for those hunters that are going to throw out that Arcane Shot during the last 3 seconds of a fight when Aim Shot is not going to have enough time to be cast. You throw out that Arcane Shot towards the end of a fight, you squeeze off a little more damage. That's great, that's awesome. But, honestly, you're not going to go out of your way to wear this set just for that single use case. You're not. It's not going to make any sense. But seeing the 5-piece set bonus got me thinking. I was like, what would be a good 3-piece set bonus to tie in with this? And I even thought maybe we could go 5-piece set for 5-piece set of Predator's armor, but unfortunately you can't do that unless you sacrifice the Striker's Garb shoulders for the Predator's armor. Now, granted, you would only lose 6 spell power, and that's one of the lower values of spell power, but you also would lose the 3-minute cooldown on rapid fire. So you would have a total of 36 spell power plus the extra tick of Serpent Sting with having the 5-piece set bonus from Predators. But again, you're losing way too much DPS by not wearing Prestors over Maelstrom. The Charm of Beast is nice and all, but you're always going to swap out of it to Royal Seal in a fight. And beyond that, the Predator's belt's nice for the extra hit, but these other ones, you're getting way more value out of other pieces versus the Bracers and the Mantle of Hell. The Bracers don't even offer you agility, they offer you attack power, which is nice, but at the same time, you're losing out on DPS, especially as Alliance, because we got Kings, we need agility. We need that 22, 21, 23 agility we're getting from Giant Stalker or Dragon Stalker Bracers all day long. That's going to give us way more attack power, way more crit, and these Bracers are just going to lose out. So at the end of the day, the only piece out of this entire set besides the Charm of the Beast for an opener is even useful is the belt, in my opinion, because it gives you 1% hit, it gives you plus 20 agility, and in certain use cases can actually give you a bump in your DPS in your opener with plus 20 attack power. So if you were to wear Charm of the Beast and Xandal or Predator's belt in an opener, and then you swapped out both pieces of gear when you Fiend Death out, you get a little bit bump in your DPS. But otherwise, wearing all 5 pieces of this set makes absolutely no sense when compared to things at like Tier 1, Tier 2, Striker's Garb, or, eventually Crypt Stalker. So, unfortunately, that didn't work, but then it got me thinking. I was like, well, what if I wore a 3-piece set from Giant Stalker? Or what if I wore a 3-piece set from Dragon Stalker? What would I gain? And I looked, and it turns out that Dragon Stalker's, increase to attack power to aspect the Hawk actually has a lot of value. So the pieces that you'd be wearing in this instance would be the bracers, the belt, and the gloves. So there's your 3 pieces that you'll be wearing. Well, turn to find out, 2 of those 3 pieces gives you crit, which is really great, a lot of value there. So I wanted to go over and I wanted to test some things. So I pulled up my calculators from last week's video, the Phase 5 BIS video, and here's what I found. Tier 2 offers you 755.8 DPS with this current setup of on Ragnaros with these debuff slots. You don't have Annihilator proc, you don't have a Leader of the Pack buff, and you don't have Battle Shout, and this is your normal rotation. You're not melee weaving. So melee weaving is a niche environment. A lot of hunters are doing it, but I like to look at this just from a normal range damage perspective, because that's what most hunters are sticking with in most fights. A lot of hunters are doing melee weaving, sure, but a lot of hunters are only doing melee weave in certain fights. They're not doing it for every single fight. Every single fight is possible, but you got to enlist. You got to invest in like restorative pots. If you're Alliance, you got to see if you can get a dwarf priest that's capable of putting fear ward on you. And if you're Horde, you got to make sure you talk to your shamans, make sure, hey, Tremor Totem now, goes down now, not then. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes with that. And you got to invest in free action potions, so on and so forth. And then there's the whole issue of maybe your tank can't hold threat, which is another story entirely. But from a pure range perspective, this is what Tier 2 offers with this setup, 755.8 DPS. So looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, awesome. Well, last week, the best that I could do with Tier 2.5 was 748 DPS. So looking at Tier 2.5 now, by swapping in Dragon Stalker and changing out a ring, all of a sudden you're sitting on 750.1 DPS. The problem with going with Dragon Stalker is that you lose the necessary hit. You lose that 9% hit value that you'd have. So in order for you to achieve 9% hit, you would have to do one of 2 things. You'd either have to go with Cloak of the Unseen Path and Blessed Karaji Pugio, which is the offhand that you would use out of AQ, it's a dagger, it gives you hit, attack, power, and crit. But even that is less damage, not by much. It's like 1.5 DPS less than this current setup, which is Prestors, Dragon Stalker, Fallen God Cloak, Band of Acuria on your ring, and then Signet of the Bronze Dragonfly. So you're getting 3% hit from the rings alone. So you're talking 3% from here, 3% from your scope, and then of course you're getting, you're getting another % hit from your neck, and you're getting 2% from the enchants. So assuming you have all of this gear, you have all of these enchants, this is going to be your best way to go with Striker's Garb. You have 3 pieces of Dragonstalker, so you're benefiting an extra 20% from Aspect of the Hawk, which again, remember, in AQ 20, you are going to have access to an additional rank of Aspect of the Hawk, which instead of being 110 is now going to be 120. 20% of that is 24, which is going to add 144 attack power from your Aspect of the Hawk, which is great. That extra 34 attack power from Aspect of the Hawk compared to what we currently have is really, really awesome. It's really, really great. So, again, at the end of the day, you can scrape out a little bit more DPS with Striker's Garb versus what you could before if you didn't go with 3 pieces of Dragonstalker. But it's going to require you to really be anal about your... Like, you can't even do this setup without the ZG enchants on your Striker's Garb set. You can. So, for everybody that's already gotten 2 Falcon's Call like myself and slapped it on Tier 1, well, now you're going to have to just wait, get 2 more Falcon's Call, and just let them sit in your inventory and just wait. Just wait until you're able to actually slap it on Striker's Garb and go from there. And Striker's Garb already by itself is going to be a pain in the neck to have to achieve, because a lot of DPS classes want to wear Tier 2.5. So a lot of DPS classes are going to be fighting over the idols and stuff like that to drop from AQ 40. So you're just going to have to bide your time, wait till these drop, wait till you get these. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, if Tier 2 is better, then why not just use Tier 2? Here's the thing. The Tier 2 DPS increase is all, and I mean all of it, is coming from exposed weakness proccing at least once or twice, because the values here are the exact same. But notice attack power, mana, crit, melee attack power, even for, you know, melee weaving. Tier 2.5 is actually higher on every single value. Health, mana, range attack power, melee attack power, crit. It's not by much, mind you, except for health. For some reason, health is like 200 plus health more. But with this setup, you're talking about having more attack power, more crit, more mana, more health than Dragonstalker. So from a raw damage output, single target, no exposed weakness proccing whatsoever, Striker's Garb is better all day long. The second that you get a single exposed weakness proc, your DPS is going to bump about 5 to 10 DPS, roughly, give or take, depending on what shots you get off in that window. If you're able to get an aim shot, multi-shot combo off in that exposed weakness window, the DPS increase is going to be significantly higher. Well, if aim shot just happened to be on cooldown and multi-shot's on cooldown during the exposed weakness and all you get's auto shot, it's going to be significantly lower. Same thing if, say, aim shot's already gone off, it's on cooldown, all you can squeeze out is a multi-shot. Same thing, it'll be kind of middle of the road. So, if you don't want to rely on exposed weakness and you want to get the most out of your PvE gear as possible, Striker's Garb is going to be the way to go. Personally, for me, I don't know. It's going to depend completely on the fight and the encounter, because at the end of the day, we still have to rely on some of those resistances for some fights. Mainly, Fire Maul comes to mind. You're not going to be able to wear this set against Fire Maul. It's not going to fly, because you're not going to have the fire resistance, because you get absolutely no resistances whatsoever from Striker's Garb. I mean, it has literally no resistances whatsoever. You have agility, stamina, intellect, spirit, armor, spell power. That's it. Whereas in all the other tier sets are going to give you arcane, fire, frost, nature, shadow resistance. So resistances are going to be great in Molten Core. They're going to be great in BWL. They're going to be great in, you know, for Princess Huron, you're going to want nature resistance. And then, of course, in Nax, you're going to start dabbling a little bit in frost resistance. So, I don't know. Striker's Garb is great for a lot of fights where resistances is not going to be necessary, but for a few fights, at the very least, Striker's Garb can't even be entertained. So, but there's also the added benefit of a 3-minute cooldown on rapid fire instead of 2. So if a fight is a prolonged fight, and once we get to Nax, I guarantee you, fights are going to be longer than 3 minutes. At least a good chunk of them. So the added value of having rapid fire on a 3-minute cooldown instead of a 5-minute cooldown is astronomical. That would be absolutely incredible to be able to do that. Just slap on, boom, burst window, boom, 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 boom. And then you, by the time you get around to the end of Nax, of that fight encounter, you get to have another burst window, which can go a long way towards boosting our DPS even further. So, I don't know. At the end of the day, it's completely up to you, the individual, what you want to do. I personally think Striker's Garb is a great set to go for, but for, you know, limited use cases. You're not going to be able to use it against Fire Maul, but you'll totally be able to use it against Nefarian or Ragnaros or other fights where you just sit back and just blow stuff up all day long. Go for that. So for me, I'm personally going for this route. We're not allowed to wear 8 of 8 tier 2 at all in my guild and raids, so this is going to be the set that I go for, honestly. And I'll have my FR set or my NR set or my frost resistance set whenever that time comes. I'll have those in my bag. I can swap to it for those fights and then swap back to Striker's Garb and Dragonstalker in the meantime. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I know you're probably a little bit distraught. I know I was. I wish Minpet and Serpent Sting scaled 1-to-1. Unfortunately, they do not. Arcane Shot's the only thing that really benefits completely out of the spell damage we get from Striker's Guard, but at the end of the day, it's not enough. There is one thing I do want to say. Apparently, Spirit Bond from Beast Mastery scales with healing, and it scales 1-to-1, but the downside to that is it's already only 2% of your health, and it's only every 10 seconds. And I can't think in my heart of hearts what hunter in their right mind would go for plus healing gear, sacrificing damage, either in PvE or PvP, just so you can get, a good bump in self-healing every 10 seconds. I don't think that's worth it. But again, if you want to have those meme builds, those meme specs, go for it, dude. You can have, 1,000 plus health returned to you every 10 seconds. That would be kind of broken, and you'd probably be unkillable in a 1v1 situation. But, in Battlegrounds, a lot of things can happen in 10 seconds, and in arenas, which is TBC, even more so. So, at the end of the day, I don't think, entertaining, Spirit Bond with plus healing is going to be, worthwhile, but I thought I would mention it. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I love you guys as always, and I'll see you tomorrow in Blackwing Lair. We'll be going for 315 FR resistance against Fire Maul. We're gonna be soaking for days, so be sure to swing by twitch.tv/saltyzera tomorrow night to check that out. As always, I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Zera out.